This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Another life was lost to violence in our province over the weekend. A 21-year-old was shot in the Exchange District early on Saturday morning. His death marks the 45th homicide in Winnipeg this year, surpassing the previous high of 44 homicides in 2019. Holly Carrick has more.
Balloons and candles mark the spot where a young man lost his life over the weekend. The card says, "You will always be remembered." The shooting death of 21-year-old Tristan James Renard Asham marks a grim milestone for Winnipeg. His death is the 45th homicide police have investigated this year, more than the previous high, which was 44 in 2019. For families who have lost loved ones to violence, it's a stark reminder.
For all of us, when you hear of a homicide, your heart drops to the floor because you know what those people are in for. We know what's ahead for them. And we know how hard it's going to be for them to get through this.
Karen Wiebe lost her 20-year-old son TJ to violence nearly 2 decades ago. She now helps families of homicide victims. Wiebe is especially saddened to hear of homicides involving young people. Violent crimes have been on the rise in Winnipeg in recent years, according to Winnipeg police data. The homicide rate is outpacing the 5-year average. Many of those accused in recent homicides are in their teens and 20s. A spokesperson for the Winnipeg Police Service said surpassing the highest number of homicides in a year is undoubtedly concerning for the community, as it is for the WPS. When investigating any homicide, members of the WPS always strive to bring justice to the victims' families, provide answers, and a greater sense of safety for the broader community. Last week, the province announced a new plan to target violent criminals and a beefed-up bail and probation program to monitor high-risk offenders. Funding was also announced for homeless-serving organizations to get people off the streets and into housing. For those who have lost loved ones, there's little comfort.
You don't get over a homicide. You learn to live with it. There's no such thing as closure.
Wiebe runs a foundation in her son's name, TJ's Gift. She hopes to reach young people before it's too late. Holly Carrick, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Post-secondary educators in our province are balking at the government's plan to consider performance-based models for university funding. The idea ties higher education funding to completion rates and graduate salaries. Manitoba's Advanced Education Minister, John Reyes, says it's about making post-secondary institutions accountable for the public dollars they receive. But Brandon University professor Kelly Sauder says performance-based models hit smaller universities particularly hard.
This model is not the way in which we feel, that the government can go about improving accountability. So I think we need to sit down and have those conversations first and foremost.
Sauder says many students at Brandon University are older. Some, she says, come from small communities or First Nations as well. She says universities should not drive away marginalized students with performance-based funding. The Canadian Armed Forces is looking into the death of a Canadian soldier in Iraq on Saturday. The forces says Captain Eric Chung's death wasn't related to a military operation there, and it says no further details will be released until an investigation is complete. Captain Chung was in Baghdad as part of the U.S.-led coalition against ISIS. Chung was based in Winnipeg and had been with the Canadian military since 2009. He was 38 years old. The last remnant of a statue of Queen Victoria on the front lawn of the Manitoba legislature is being cleared away. The large pedestal served as the base of that statue. It was the only part that remained intact more than a year after that statue was toppled on Canada Day of last year. There's still no decision on what may become of that statue and pedestal. Newcomer students will be able to get more help settling in thanks to an increase in the grant from the provincial government. The province is doubling the intensive newcomer support grant to $1.8 million. Sandra Herbst is the superintendent of the River East Transcona School Division. She described the case of one boy named Michael who came here from Ukraine. Herbst says a team helped him and his mother transition into the system despite language and hearing challenges.
Though Michael's new life does not include his father, who has remained in Ukraine to defend their country, he is thriving educationally because of the systemic supports that have been put in place.
Herb says her division alone has seen 512 newcomer students in the past 6 weeks. That is equal to the number of the entirety of last year. Students from 25 Winnipeg high schools went to class today at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. They were there to learn about climate change and how young people can take action. Emily Brass was there.
Students filed into classrooms for a different kind of lesson.
You are going to have 4 rounds.
The Climate Action Youth Forum is aimed at getting teens working together, even when they might be competing.
So I'm going with 1.
Same.
The game got them thinking like politicians, pushing them to make tough decisions on addressing climate change on a budget. The museum itself is also part of the lessons, showing students how people in the past fought adversity to create change.
I believe that is what us youth need to hear, that these small actions that we take are important, and we are the catalyst for change, and we are the future.
Another session tackled ways to turn fear over what might happen to the planet into hope.
Stressed, anxious, climate anxiety, but also it's empowering in a way that after all these generations of people, not doing anything, that we're the ones that are finally taking a stand.
Organizers say the key is taking action. They recruited local groups to give workshops on making a difference in your own backyard. Students head back to school with action plans for things like planting trees and promoting public transit. Each school gets a $500 grant to make it happen. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, here is a live look outside at downtown Winnipeg tonight. A lot more seasonal in terms of the temperatures this evening and through the day today. Much of us saw some snow over the weekend as well. Meteorologist John Sauder will be in next with his forecast. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. 22 model clear out is on now.
Well, we were expecting temperatures right around the freezing mark today, and in Winnipeg we got to +1 this afternoon. All the while I'm watching more snow in Saskatchewan and some wind. We've got snowfall warnings and blowing snow warnings as well. And this leading edge warm front here moving into southern Manitoba will bring a few additional flurries into the region tonight and should be ending after midnight. Tomorrow, about 5, maybe a little bit more centimeters of snow moving into northern Manitoba, areas like Flin Flon across into Thompson and Norway House, and then we see some rain and a rain-snow mix in northwestern Ontario on the warm side of that low. By Wednesday, we're getting cooler again. Temperatures on Tuesday across the south above 0, but more like -1s and -2s on Wednesday, and really not a lot of snow here, just some nuisance flurries on the way with clearing back up to the north. So -2 tonight. We get windy on into the morning hours with gusts to 50 out of the southeast, and 2 degrees first thing in the morning at the bus stop, 4 degrees in the afternoon. Southeast winds a little lighter later in the day, and then this week is a lot of cloud and a lot of wind, and much cooler toward the weekend. I'll be tracking a system on Friday bringing more snow, -6s both days on the weekend.
All right, thank you, John. That is your late news for this Monday. Thank you for being with us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.